Hi, this is Byron Hines. In this video demonstration, we're going to take a look at some of the installation packages that are available to get OpenStack up and running in our environment. Then we're actually going to go ahead and do that and get some of the prerequisites installed and download some of the packages that are required for our distribution of Linux and have it up and running. Now, this is the homepage from the OpenStack Foundation, and as with most homepages, it will change from time to time. This is what it looks like as I'm recording today. And under software, though, if you look down here, oops, one too many clicks. If I go under software and I go down to get started, here are the two most common ways that people begin with OpenStack. One is to use OpenStack on an existing cloud or an existing infrastructure provider. And that's fine if you just want to kick the tires and see how it goes. The other most common option is to use DevStack. DevStack is a completely scripted set of packages and installation options that just take it from 0 to 100 miles an hour in no time. You can basically use the OpenStack Quick Start, the DevStack Quick Start to just bring up an OpenStack implementation on a single machine, on a virtual machine, on a laptop, server in your data center, however you want to do that. And the great advantage to that is that it's fully scripted and it's automatic. So you can go in here and you can take a look at the quick start, or you can look at the whole list of things that's there. Now, of course, there's other ways to do it, and the downside to using DevStack, and we actually have a video available on installing DevStack, but the downside to that is you don't have as much flexibility as you might want if you look at everything that's available for all the different modules and how you might want to configure them individually. Plus, on top of that, OpenStack also has regular releases. So you may want to use a particular release, and if that's not the release that happens to be published as DevStack, you're going to run into a little bit of issue with that. So in order to support some things that we want to do in these demonstrations and to show you the other way and some of the other packages that are required or available to you to do that, we're going to actually set up a demo system using the Juno release, which as of this recording is the latest release of OpenStack. And to do this, we needed to have 3 computers set up. We have a controller node, we have a networking node, and we have a compute node. Now later on, we're going to go and add and expand out some more compute nodes, and we're going to go through one at a time and install each of the services that is required to have this. Now you can do, as I mentioned, you can have this all running on one machine. Now the goal of OpenStack is to scale up to hundreds and thousands of machines. So that's not going to be the case very often outside of the testing environment. So we're going to go ahead and use Juno. And one of the platforms that's supported is Ubuntu 14.04. Now, most people would install the server without any GUI, but in order to facilitate the demonstration and often for testing, we're using one of the lightest weight GUIs that we can get, the Ubuntu release, so that we have a few things in the GUI available for us. Now, we had to begin by setting up those installations, setting up those machines, getting the networking configured, getting everything talking to each other. So that part we've all taken care of. This particular controller has only one network interface card, and it's on our management network. The management network does route out to the internet because that's where we're going to get stuff from. And I've just copied the commands here into a script just so that I don't get lost or mistype something while you're all watching. And just because we don't want to have to elevate every time we do something, we're going to go ahead and take root right here. Now, most of OpenStack is written in Python, so we're going to make sure that we've got the most recent version of Python. That's the first package that we need to have. So we're going to go out and get that and have it install. That's pretty quick. And we're going to say that we want to connect to the repository that controls or that houses the most recent release. So we're just going to tell it we want to be able to get to that repository. And yes, we want to add that. And there we go. Now, before we go ahead and do anything else, we're going to get all of the current updates. Now we're going to copy this in and paste it there. And this can be a long process or a short process, depending on exactly what's involved in your situation right now. And you can see it's going out and pulling down and making sure that all the updates are ready and raring to go. And it tells me I have 272 megabytes of updates that are waiting for me. So I'm going to go ahead and let that run. So our updates have completed. Now, the OpenStack documentation will actually warn you here that if you've had kernel updates, it's probably a good idea. Well, it's a required idea to reboot right now. Because we're going to go ahead and install some other things and take a break, we're going to skip that reboot. I would normally recommend in production, when I'm not recording what I'm doing, that you go ahead and restart the whole service at this point, because this can be a pretty major update depending on exactly what status you're in right now. But now we're going to go ahead and pull in a couple of more packages that are required before we can even get to the OpenStack stuff. So first of all, we need to have a database. OpenStack uses a database to keep track of a lot of stuff. And we're going to use a couple of packages, the Maria database and the MySQL interfaces to it. They are compatible with each other in terms of the command. There's actually 3 or 4 different supported databases that you can use. And because it's open source and configurable, you can make a lot of different choices as how you want to go. This is the default, if you like. This is the recommended one that's contained within most of the documentation. You get this very lovely, very bright pop-up asking us to assign a password to the root user, not the root of our Unix or Linux installation in this case, but the root of the database itself, if you like the DBA or the SA, if you're familiar with some of those database terms. And just to keep things simple, we're going to use just the word secret as our password wherever we need a password during our installs here, just to keep life simple. Not a great idea for production, but that's what we're doing. There we go. Didn't take very long to install that. Now we do want to go into the configuration file for that product or for that package and make a couple of little changes. So we'll just go here and we'll open this up in a GUI editor. I'll pull this over here a little bit. And we want to find the right section to put these in, which is down here under MySQLD. Now one of them is actually a change because we've actually taken out the default loopback address. So we don't want to bind to that. We want to bind to our management interface address. And then we're actually just going to add these particular little tweaks. And they're basically around being able to use extended characters and UTF-8. We'll save that file and we'll close that file. And then just to force the service, the database, to reread that, we'll go ahead and restart that service. There we go. Now, another package and service that's required before we can install our OpenStack services is to have the messaging service, or to have a messaging service. In this case, the messaging service, again, there's 3 or 4 choices that are supported that you can use, and it depends a little bit on your distro that you're running this on. One that's supported on pretty much everything is called Rabbit. So we're going to go ahead and install that package as well. And there we go, that's done. Now, by default, Rabbit creates an account or a user that's called guest with a password of guest. And in production, you'd certainly want to change that and have a particular specific account. In our case, because I said we're going to use secret wherever we use a password, we're just going to change the password on the guest account to secret so that we have that same consistent password. So there we have it. We've downloaded all of our prerequisites, all of our packages. We've taken a look at a couple of different ways we can install it. We've talked briefly about comparing the DevStack option and packages with doing it all yourself with more flexibility, but a little more work. And now we're ready to go ahead and set up our actual OpenStack services.